Our second public comment is usually for 20 minutes. Same rules apply, please.
That means I can speak for 20 minutes.
But no,
Larry Pastor, Middletown business executive. I was once, 4 years ago, the proud member of the small, really unusual that hasn't been done here tonight by the professional, quote unquote, staff, is to thank Dr. Menker for his service to our district. I've gotten to know Lou. And you will find no finer gentleman than Lou Menker. And it's been a pleasure to be part of the last 4 years working with this board, to be able to work with you and to see the good work that you do for the community. So thank you. The first thing I'd like to say very quickly is that if we're 245 in PSAs, I think we do have a real problem already, Mr. Shubin. So let's really start working on this thing. It's not because of work to contracts. We've dropped 100 places in the last 10 years. There's a serious problem in this district, and we need to fix it now. Just so nobody in the NFT is confused, by the way, no taxpayers are confused about the facts that this board has put out. And as of the strike for 9 days, neither are the parents. We understand completely the facts about what's going on in this district and what the NFT is demanding. For the teacher who was concerned about her HMO, I'm wondering, do any of the people in the union understand what was offered in July 18th after Mr. Dunkley called it trash? Apparently not. There's also a high deductible plan that would only cost $90 a month. Does anybody know that that's there? It's really stunning. For the people that got up and talked about how teachers care so much about our children, why? What's the evidence for that? I've seen 2 work to contracts and a strike that have hurt our children. They've used our children as hostages in an extortion scheme for money from taxpayers. How is that caring for our children? Tell me. The NFT comes up here and talks about nasty things and their reputation and so forth. The NFT has sullied the reputation of Neshaminy and our teachers. Now, Louise Boyd is due to come before you on Thursday. You've asked her to come with a full proposal addressing 50 items. These so-called non-economic items like MEQ, that cost the district tens of millions over the last decade or more. Every other district did away with it 10 years ago. What do you mean non-economic? But equal say? Hiring practices that have union control? Past practice? These all have to go. And they all ought to be brought to the meeting on Thursday. Don't accept any less. And I want the NFT and I want the community to know that taxpayers and parents will not accept the 2000.
Time is up, sir.
I'm in shock. I'm in shock and I am totally disgusted. This PSSA requirement for graduation at this point in time is the most asinine, stupid, irresponsible, and insensitive decision this board has ever made. And I am addressing all 7 of you that voted for it. Asinine. We are penalizing our students. 2 years ago, we ranked on PSSA's number 203 out of 500 districts in Pennsylvania. Last year, we were not 203, we were 245. What are we going to be next year with 2 work to contracts back to back and a teacher strike? I'm betting you that we're going to be in the 300s. Now, for the high school juniors that are going to be required to pass the PSSAs before they get a high school diploma, what's going to happen to them? What kind of remediation, Mr. Shubin, are we going to have for those juniors to make them pass, to allow them to pass the PSSAs? I am telling you, if a single Neshaminy high school student is not given a high school diploma because they did not pass the PSSA, you have not seen Charles Alfonso on the warpath. And I am addressing all of you, and I am serious about this. The PSSAs there's two credible reasons for the NFT to go on strike during PSSA week. If one of the reasons is to further maximize the damage to the district students, since the state may fine the district for not complying with the PSSA exams. That's maximum damage. And number two is, it's the NFT's only way to avoid the impending disaster of PSSA scores after two cruel consecutive work-to-contracts and one strike. But let no one ever forget that our caring and dedicated NFT leaders are only taking this cruel action because as role models, they truly care for our developing children's education and character. I am telling you, board, I am disappointed is the understatement of the year. I am livid about this decision. Goodbye.
Stephen Peritano, Feasterville, self-employed. For all those in the community that may not have a chance to see it, this ran 5 times, taxpayer funded in the newspaper. Bucks County Courier-Times, you can get a copy of it, www.neshamonytaxpayers.com. Facts again, there were 42 versions of this letter before we as a group were satisfied it was accurate to the penny and to the facts. I encourage everybody who hasn't had a chance to read it and enlighten yourselves. A lot has changed since the 2002 contract was approved. There was sort of a changing of the guard, and the board as a unit started to think more about doing what's right for the taxpayers in the community. These are not my words. These are the words from an article from one of your prior board members, a member that sat and approved the 2002 contract. As evidence, what were they thinking about taxpayers when they approved the 2002-2008 CBA? This board, through the transparency that they have offered the community, has been responsible, fiscally responsible, a fiduciary responsibility, not giving away a retirement benefit that nobody knew about, except for those in the back room that made the deal that has cost this community $35 million. $35 million and growing. There can be no new contract with an Neshamony early voluntary retirement plan in place. None. That's $35 million that my child and the other children in this community will never see. This is why this deal is taking place with the public's involvement, with the public's input, with the public's ability to see what's going on, because we never seen what was going on before. If we would have seen what was going on, do you think we would have agreed to give you lifetime medical benefits, not lifetime, to the age of 65 after retirement, $27,500 bonus on top of that, and $20,000 worth of term life insurance, okay? After you leave, we're still insuring your life for your spouse and your dependents. The medical opt-out plan, a lot of people don't realize that was talked about tonight. Married couple, both employed as certified staff, both getting the benefit of the medical insurance, the full Rolls-Royce coverage, taking home a gift of 37% of what the other coverage for the other person would have been when you're still getting the benefit. The benefit was designed for if you exempted yourself from getting the benefit. Not getting the benefit and getting it, but because of the language that was in there, it was ambiguous, you were able to take advantage of it. Then you wonder why the community is outraged.
My name is Michelle Fay. I'm from Langhorne Gables, and I have a few things I'd like to address. First, I'd like to know if the NFT has to notify the school board that they plan to go back to work to contract. If they do, I want to know if we as parents can come together and be able to get into those schools to help decorate, That's the littlest thing that we can do to help. Second, I'd like to say to all the teachers that came up here and asked this school board what we are teaching our children, what are you teaching our children when you walk out on them, when you don't decorate their classrooms, when you treat them like you don't care? And lastly, I'd like to say to the teacher who sat in this front row and booed me when I talked about my family's hardship during this, shame on you.
Joan Thomas, Langhorne. The teachers think that we are disrespecting them, but I think it might have been the last meeting when everyone was saying the Pledge of Allegiance that they're screaming, negotiate. Is that respecting our country? I don't think so. Now, I still live in the United States. I still have freedom of speech. So when I say that I think that the teachers are greedy, when I say that I think that the teachers don't really care about the children, when I say that I think that the teachers really do not care whether seniors are taking reverse mortgages or they do not care if people are losing their jobs, they just want more money, then that is my prerogative. And I am not jeering them. I happen to be speaking what I think is the truth.
Hello. My name's Dawn Lynch. I live in Middletown. My kids go to Miller. I had no plans on coming up to talk to you guys tonight until the PSSA thing came up. My daughter is in 5th grade. I have no complaints about her teachers. I love every one of them. She's autistic. And this is going to directly affect her. She is a brilliant little girl, but she struggles with testing. What about my kid? What about overcrowding when a bunch of these kids start failing? Teachers do their jobs, but guess what? Everybody's not going to pass all the time. That simple. What do we do when we have it in mass? With all of these schools closing, these Catholic schools, and those kids have nowhere to go right now. They're coming to our schools. We're going to have overcrowding. We're going to have kids who don't pass who are now stuck in our school system. So what do we tell them when they're 18? Drop out, get your GED, and go to community college? Mr. Schuman, I heard you mention IEP students, or one of the board members, I'm sorry if it wasn't you. All I want to know is, what are you going to do for my daughter? There's a lot of them. She's not alone. And this can really affect her future. She is a very bright kid, and I am very hopeful for her future. Please don't stunt my child's growth, because she deserves a chance just like the rest of them. Just because she can't test the same doesn't mean she's not as smart as them. Thank you. That's all I have to say.
Good evening. Steve Redis. I live in the villages of Flowers Mill. Dr. Menker, I am sorry that you are leaving the district. I always found you very open and accommodating, and always open for discussion and suggestions. To the board, you have your attorney here, I believe. Why don't you have him explain to the public, you can't fire all the employees just because you can say, I want to fire them. But what I would like to say is this. We are working and doing this for the children. Have you ever heard those words? This is a statement. It's a direct quote of both sides to this discussion. The board says we're doing it for the children. The teachers say we're doing it for the children. I beg to differ. Both sides are wrong, and both sides are telling less than the truth. In my opinion, the board has done nothing for the last 2 years except preside over a status quo situation. That is, they have done zip, zilch, nada, nothing for the children of this community. Each of these years, the children have suffered. No new and innovative program has been instituted, and you haven't even replaced the 2 programs that were cut out last year, even though the state came in and gave you the money for it after the budget was kind of passed, but not signed until September. There is not one thing you or the board has done for the children in the last few years. Now, as to the NFT, you are also not doing this for the children. Yes, you are worth every penny of your salary and probably a lot more. You are surely worth the salary, a higher salary made by those teachers in other districts. But allow me to clue you in on something. It is simple economics. For example, the retired teachers are not worth the expenditure of 1 cent out of our budget. Both sides must sit and negotiate together. Both sides have to work out the cost of health care and retirement payments and other issues. It is not rocket science. And if it were, we could get someone from NASA to figure it out, since they are in the process of shutting down also. Thank you.
We have one more, and was there someone else? Okay. Just you, then, ma'am. Go ahead, please.
My name is Marianne Finney. I'm a parent. I live in Langhorne. My son is in the new hybrid kindergarten program at Walter Miller Elementary School. He is officially on the autism spectrum. First, I want to say kudos to his teachers. They've been doing a great job for him this year. This is a new program, and it's been doing great. But I do want to say that the 2-week disruption was very harmful to him. Being off his schedule was horrible for him. And we're still having trouble getting back into his schedule. Don't know when we'll get him back on schedule. For all these issues that people are saying that there's, not agreement with, be it, equal say, whatever, my proposal is we have a voting mechanism in this school district. Why don't, when people go for presidential elections, they go for other elections, put it on a ballot. Let it go to a vote. Let the people who are going to pay for this vote on it. What they agree with, what they don't agree with. And then we can see if people agree that, hey, we're willing to pay all this more money so that, the teachers can get the contract they want, then fine. If the voters say no, they don't, then the votes have spoken. Bring it to the people who need to pay for it and let them vote.
Is this on? Hi, I'm Gail Longden. I live in Langhorne. I have 3 children. 2 have graduated to Chamonix, and 1 is in 10th grade at the high school. So I'm sitting here listening to all of this, and my phone is going off feverishly, and I'm trying to figure out what this could be. Next to me sits Miss Boyd, busy on her phone. Okay, whatever. The next thing I know, texts are coming in. Just received a cold call from Louise Boyd. She will answer all of our questions and wants us to get involved with the teachers. How and why does she have my phone number? I just got the call as well, and I don't have any children in the district. How did she get my number? Just received my call concerning the town hall meeting. How do you get off their call list? My number's blocked. Same. Should look into a class action lawsuit if numbers are unlisted. That would entail hearing the truth, and they can't handle the truth. Just a few examples of what kind of listening is going on during this session. I don't understand how we can have a full board here listening intently and the union president sitting there doing robocalls and not listening.
You're our last speaker, sir. Go ahead. Your name and the area you live in. You got a twin. They can come together.
Brother, actually.
Brother, okay.
My name is Anthony Perez. I reside in Langhorne, and I'm a senior at Neshaminy High School. What I wanted to bring to everyone's attention is that There are two things I haven't heard from either side saying anything. Back, I don't know, I'd like to say the 1930s. Sorry, history teachers, if I got that wrong. American workers were working long hours, being abused by their bosses, and received little to no pay at all. And they decided to form unions to protect their rights and to ensure that they had better working conditions for everyone. And to that effect, the definition of a union is they're supposed to protect their working conditions so that they can survive the workday. Because you know, people getting injured and bosses not really caring about insurance and whatnot. And what I don't understand from the NFT's perspective is that a union is meant to protect people's rights. I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think that it's your right to ask for more money when the district has nothing to spend. Unions were not formed to protect your job. Unions were formed to make sure that your job is safe. That's it. Other than that, unions have no use today. That's just my opinion. And as for the teachers that had the nerve to come up here and say that we care about the children and what the school board has to say, why do I see half the teachers have already left? Why? It's dishonest, it's disappointing, and it's disrespectful that half the teachers have already left without hearing what the school board has to say. The school board's been here the whole time. Why can't you be? And to that effect, I would also like to add that.
I'm sorry, your time is up. Thank you. Okay. Board comment, any? Mr. Shubin.
Point of clarification, just so everybody knows, there will be alternatives for folks that do not pass the PSSA, okay? This is not a penalizing situation. There will be alternatives, and I just want to make sure everybody understands that, okay? So we're not going to strip certificates of graduation away from students for not passing a standardized test here. We're trying to make it the students accountable for something that's extremely important to the district. We have students that are going in there literally drawing signs on the test, and that's just unacceptable. Okay? Now, I want to talk a little bit about some things people said tonight, because I got to tell you, you know, when teachers come up here, and I respect the profession, and I'm sure the teachers that know me know how much I respect the teaching profession. But a number of years ago, your union ran an ad in the Courier-Time calling this board, I wasn't on it at the time, liars. Folks, that's when it started. You called us liars. And ever since then, when we sit down to discuss negotiations with you, you don't agree with the financial realities on the ground. Your team is not in agreement with our financial realities. How can you negotiate if the financial realities, the audited financial statements you guys dismiss. How? How you expect to do it? If you look at it and say, we don't agree with your numbers, I don't see how you can negotiate in those circumstances. That number one. Number two, this is a disagreement about priorities. We have limited resources. We have budget deficits. We have Act 1. We have limited taxing ability. We're trying to do some good for this district. We have building issues. Mr. Minotti can attest to those building issues. We have educational things we want to invest in. We want to invest in training. We want to do good things. But we can't do it if we don't get the right contract. So I implore on you to tell your negotiating team to come to the table seriously and willing to deal with the financial realities that are on the table. Because until then, this deal won't get done. Finally, it's important, folks, that we don't need signs with pigs on them, and we need to tone down the rhetoric a bit. Both sides, right? I don't think teachers need to be coming up in here and telling us that we're not doing our job and that we're lying and that our numbers are false and we have double books. And we don't need community members drawing pigs on, defecating bad pictures of teachers. We need to try, with respect, to deal with this situation with the facts at hand, right? Because the facts speak for themselves. And let's keep the gasoline in the closet, if at all possible. Okay? Thank you.
Mr. Ottinger.
I hope I'm 100% wrong by voting no for the PSSA graduation requirement, but I just don't think it's the right time. Another problem coming up is the 2012-2013 budget. Hopefully, we can get some recommendations of what's going to be cut this year, because that's going to be another major problem. The rhetoric, I enjoy it. I like the NFT signs. I like the I love the school board signs. So, it's not going to stop. So we might as well make the best out of it. It's not hampering any decisions I make. And I'm working with Dr. Radigan to get a date for the ad hoc committee. We'll post it on the school district website when we get it. Thanks.
Mr. Congdon?
Yeah, there's a lot of things on my mind. I need to go back and listen to a few things that were said earlier during public comment, because I was beside myself with some of the things I was hearing this evening. And some of them came from teachers. There was a lot of teachers that got up and spoke and made a lot of good points. There was a few teachers that got up there, and I just could not believe what I was hearing. Could not believe it. Steve, you're adding fuel to the fire, man. You're a substitute for our thing. You just stood up here and said that this board up here has not done one thing for the children. I 100% disagree with that. That is a ridiculous statement to make. We don't get paid. My cell phone bill is like tripled since I joined this board. I spend time away from my family, my kids. I mean, it's unbelievable that you would come up here and say that this board is done, and this board has not done one thing for the children. They were your exact words. It's absurd that you would feel that way. Absurd that you would feel that way. It's not a personal attack, it's my feelings. I mean, I've heard teachers stand up tonight and say the NWT shirts or whatever. I mean, they're shirts, and somebody was complaining about it. What have our children looked at every Friday for the last 2 years?
And right now, I'm probably not being part of the solution, but I think it's time for both sides to grow up. Stop pointing the fingers, because each time you point the finger at somebody, there's 3 fingers pointing right back at yourself. Thank you.
Other board comment? Ms. Boyle?
I'd like to take a few minutes to thank Dr. Menker for his extraordinary service here. I mean, in these trying times, his leadership will be sorely missed.
Other board comment? Mrs. Cummings?
This evening, as individuals were coming up to talk, the 3 words kept coming up, and most of the people that were speaking: work ethic, disrespect, and anger. I've heard over and over this evening. As I was thinking about some of the descriptions of work ethics, I thought about the teachers doing work to the contract. I thought about disrespect with not showing up for graduation or back to school night, and the parents being angered in the community by the teachers calling for a strike. We need to come together and work together as a community, and hopefully in the near future we'll have people that are coming up to the microphone and saying that we all respect each other and there is no anger, and our work ethics are shown in the classrooms with the teachers coming to school every day and not working to the contract.
Thank you.
Mr. Morris.
It was stated here that at the podium by public comment from an NFT member that they saved millions of dollars. I've been asking for 2 years since I got on this board here, elected on this board, to serve free of charge, spending many nights out per week. Their change of health care plan that they chose and we were considering saved the school district about $800,000. I don't have the exact number in front of me, but the bottom line is this. When you kick in the Me Too clause, fact, that it cost the district $1 million. Now, that's about a $200,000 cost, negative cost to the school district. That's a fact. If anybody has a other mathematical equation or some other kind of geometry, I would love to see that savings. We have plenty of great teachers in this school district. And I would like to foster the goodwill from the board and the public to those teachers. And no one's taking personal attacks against the teacher's occupation. Can't bunch all teachers in one bunch. Nobody can bunch me for hating teachers. I married one 25 years ago. So when people come up here saying we're all bashing teachers, I don't know one of these people that would bash a teacher. My wife doesn't get paid what you get paid. So free health care is negotiable. We must start at 15%. The school district does not have money. It's a mathematical equation. The public sees it, this board sees it. For some reason, the certified negotiation staff does not see that. And they can't show us where we can get the money because, as they stated, it's not their problem. They stated that to the negotiating committee from this board. That's not rhetoric, that's a fact. We need to stop the work to contract. We need to go in there and start educating our students because we're here to educate, not sit here and debate in public what these contracts and backdoor deals were. It's got to stop, and it's got to stop now, and this board's going to do it. Without mentioning names, this board has been fighting for the students and the taxpayers. The NFT's contracts, not our problem as far as that being not settled. We're doing what's right by the taxpayers and most importantly by the students. But we need to get back to educating the students. And we cannot do that without the certified staff. And I'm sitting up here when it's my youngest son's birthday, and I just want to say happy birthday. Have a good weekend.
Mr. Koutsaradis?
First off, I want to thank all the teachers who aren't following the work to contract. You guys chose your profession for the love of the kids, and I truly want to thank you all for that. I'm not sure if many of them are here tonight, but I do want to thank you guys. I've also been hearing a little bit of chatter, too, that the NFT's been saying, keep the pressure on. The community's starting to support us. That's not what we're hearing. Loud and clear, we are not hearing that, guys. I'm also hearing, too, that the board's starting to crumble. We're falling apart. Hey, board, are we crumbling? Or are we falling apart?
That's a no vote.
All right, thank you, Mike. In closing, guys, I just want to tell the NFT that if the strike was to make the public more aware of the demands of the NFT, you have successfully done that. Job well done. Thank you very much.
Other board comment? Okay, you want to say something, Tony? Go ahead, please.
This is directed to Dr. Minker. It was a privilege to know you, sir. I thank you for all the years of service you put in here. I know my kids went through this in the Chamonix School District, all three of them. And I know I've heard your name a lot. And I just want to say thank you.
First of all, we all are saddened by Dr. Menker's retirement, but the good news is that he's not going anywhere till hopefully the end of June, and he has agreed to stay on if we need him. And so we're very fortunate to have a gentleman of his caliber to work with us. There were a couple of things that I was kind of interested in tonight. One of the teachers said none of the surrounding districts have been asked to give back what we are being asked. You're right, because ain't none of them ever had anything like you have. You know, all we are trying to do is to bring you into the norm. That is all. Pick the surrounding district. We certainly will talk about it. We heard some rattle about New Hope Salisbury's contract. Gladly talk about it anytime you want. And Pennsbury's right now is struggling, obviously. But if you look at what they have compared to what you have, there is no comparison. I also, it's kind of a touchy thing because they say union busting. When I was negotiating the NESPA contract, they gave me help because I am the treasurer for a PSEA group that is a union for the administrators. I have a son that's a union carpenter, a son that's a police officer. My father was a coal miner. I am very pro-union, not anti-union. But what I am against is signing a contract that will cause me to cancel programs or to hurt our children in any way, shape, or form. And that's what this is all about. This is about money, whether you like to admit it or not. It's about money. And we want to make sure that when we're talking here, I remember this past year someone brought it up. We cut some language classes, 8th grade, and we took out a basketball or a basketball, I think we did too, and also one gym class. And it created a major upset. Well, how do you think you're going to feel when we start cutting the football team and the music program and all the other things that makes Neshaminy great? But if there's no money for it, it's what goes. Also, the PSSA, I'm convinced that there is enough escapes in there because it's really about improvement and about the children taking ownership. But if we find it's a problem, the board created it, the board can change it. We're with you, not against you, but sometimes we feel that the challenge, and again, I'm going on the recommendation of the people who study this because unfortunately I was not at any of those meetings either, but it was the recommendation. I think that's all I have to say. I thank you all for coming out, and I motion to adjourn, please. Second, Mr. Shubin, all in favor? Good night, everybody.